Good evening, everyone. I haven't been on here in a little bit, but I wanted to jump on today and make a little video about a new article that has come up pertaining to Y Haplogroup T. Uh, as you know, Y Haplogroup T is not very common, so there's not a lot of stuff that comes up, not a lot of articles coming up about this haplogroup. But here we have one that we're going to review real quick. And I just wanted to add that it points to the link of Y Haplogroup T to Judaism as well, by the way. Now, I've mentioned this before and have ran into skepticism, but I'm not the only one that has noticed, and other geneticists actually have noticed and talked about this, and we'll touch base on that at the end of this. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into this article, and I'm going to skip straight to the section where it talks about Y Haplogroup T. Excuse me. And here it is. It says, a mysterious find in Eindhoven, and it says, one of the most surprising discoveries in the study came from late medieval Eindhoven. At this site, 13.9% of male individuals carried the Y chromosome haplogroup T-M70. This lineage is extremely rare in Europe today and is more commonly found in parts of the Middle East, Central Asia, and among some Jewish populations. The unusual concentration raised the question of whether Eindhoven may have had a medieval Jewish community. The researchers examined this possibility by comparing their results to known Jewish and non-Jewish Y chromosome data. Our analysis do not yield conclusive evidence for a Jewish origin, the author states, but the elevated frequency of T-M70 is difficult to explain through drift alone. The presence of this lineage in such high proportions at a single site remains a notable finding, even if its origins are still uncertain. No archaeological evidence has been found to confirm the presence of a Jewish community in medieval Eindhoven, but the genetic signal is strong enough to merit further investigation. It could point to a small but distinct group whose history has yet to be fully uncovered. Pardon me. So yeah, basically in a nutshell, they're saying that Y haplogroup T is not very common in this region. It wasn't common before nor after this period, but during this window of time, at this archaeological site, they find that a significant amount, 13.9% of the males were Y haplogroup T, where today is like barely over 1%, right? Which is extremely strange, right? You have a healthy population for haplogroup T because it's it's found extremely low numbers in worldwide is less than 1% of the lineages worldwide. But anyhow, or about around 1%. So the question is, where did they go, right? If you really think about it, it's kind of strange. There are so many Y haplogroup T males there. Where did they go? Did they have something in common with each other? How would they even know that they were all of the same lineage, right? How would you know? Unless they had something distinct about their look or about their culture, right? Because it's not like, at that time, there's no knowledge of DNA. How could I say, hey, all right, guys, everyone that is Y haplogroup T, let's pack our bags and get out of this joint. We're gonna leave this area. Everyone that's T haplogroup, come on, we're out of here. There's no way they could know that. So it would mean that they would have, you know, perhaps had, a common culture, right? Anyhow, uh, we're gonna look at what Michael Hammer, because I did mention Michael Hammer in the past, did the Cohen modal haplotype, which really was centered around haplogroup J, but they kind of shunned haplogroup T because although haplogroup T is only around 3% amongst Ashkenazi, which by the way is still an overrepresentation because in that region of Eastern Europe, Y haplogroup T is less than 1%, but still. Um, in other Jewish communities, it is way overrepresented. In Baghdadi Jews, in Iranian Jews, in Moroccan Jews, Tunisian Jews, uh, Yemenite Jews. You see very high percentage of these people from these Jewish communities being Y haplogroup T, the males, yet in those host communities, the number is very low at a national level, which is what Nathaniel T. Jensen, when he wrote the book Trace, that's what he pointed at, and that's why he picked Y haplogroup T as the original Israelite lineage. But anyhow, we're going to look at Michael Hammer real quick, because I mentioned the Cohen modal haplotype. And so here we go. This is in the Wikipedia page, and so basically this shows the concentration or the frequency of Y haplogroup T by country. But it does show here the Sephardic Levites, as you can see here at the top of the page, Sephardic Levites. And, it's a small sample set, but still it was a significant percentage, 22.6%, right? Among Ashkenazi Levites, it says, found at 3.3%. Okay, but amongst Sephardic Levites, it was 22.6%. And we're going to hit that where it says 54, and that's where it's citing this from, or where it's getting this data from. And where you see the blue text, it says multiple origins of Ashkenazi Levites Y chromosome evidence for both Near East and European ancestries. All right, and when you open that, and by the way, it says, as you could see in the white text above, it would be the third name is Hammer, which would be Michael Hammer. But we're going to go ahead and open that article, and let's see the list of authors. Right here, abstract. I'm sorry, I may have missed it. There it is. Right here. Michael Hammer. Okay? So, it was in his data set that yielded that information. That's important to note because, his study for a long time was like the main data set for, Y chromosome amongst Jewish males. There's more now, there's an even larger, study that is ongoing that it's a project that will continue going, which is called the Avatenu project that is in FTDNA. And, I'm very familiar with all this because my lineage, I'm haplogroup T, my lineage is part of is one of the confirmed lineages in that study. Okay, but regardless, I'm going to go ahead and show you now what other information Michael Hammer had about Y haplogroup T. Because it's interesting because he never even mentioned it when they published that work for Cohen modal haplotype, right? They centered it around J, but amongst Sephardic Levites, and the Sephardic Jews were a significant, notable community, because before the Ashkenazi community ever really grew, and we know today that that's the biggest Jewish community, but really, uh, the Sephardic Jewish community at its time during the medieval times and before was much larger, and really did have a lot of contributions. Uh, okay, so I'm going to show you what he said about Thomas Jefferson. What Michael Hammer said about Thomas Jefferson. Okay, so this is an article that Michael Hammer wrote that was in the New York Times. Uh, and this is what he said about Thomas Jefferson. I had to screenshot this because, yeah, this is what happens. All right, well, hold on. So here's my screenshot. It says Michael Hammer, a geneticist at University of Arizona, said he had compared the Jefferson Y chromosome with those in his database of Y chromosomes and found close matches with 4 other individuals. There was a perfect match to the Y chromosome of a Moroccan Jew and matches that differed by 2 mutations from another Moroccan Jew, a Kurdish Jew, and an Egyptian. Michael Hammer said he would hazard a guess at Sephardic Jewish ancestry for Jefferson, although any interpretation was highly tentative. Sephardic Jews are descendants of those expelled from Spain and Portugal after 1492. Okay, so basically, um, he he thought that based off of the matches that he had in his database when he was doing the Cohen modal haplotype study, which was a Y chromosome of Jewish men, he had found even an exact match. Now, this is interesting because I actually am a member of a project in FTDNA where it is the biggest public data set of Y haplogroup T. And we have there some samples that are in the branch of the Jefferson lineage. Y chromosome STR values for Thomas Jefferson were published uh, by FTDNA. They have his STR values and they published them. And in that project, even in his branch, there isn't really anyone that is an exact match. So what this means is that the closest match that we know of for Thomas Jefferson was a Jew, and there's a couple other Jews that were close matches as well. You know, and aside from that, as we said, Michael Hammer also, when he did the Cohen modal haplotype study, in his data set, he had among Sephardic Levites or the priestly tribe or rabbinical lineages, 22.8% of them among Sephardic Jews were Levites. They never mentioned that. They never mentioned that. Anyhow, that's all I wanted to leave on here today, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening, rest of your weekend. All right, good night.